It could strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. Poliomyelitis was the epidemic of the early 1900s that made mothers fear that their currently healthy child could possibly be crippled the very next week. Though they would be relieved if a day went by that they saw their son or daughter unharmed by this disease, the parents could only wonder what tomorrow would be like. The constant worry was agonizing. This disease was transmitted by close contact, entering through the mouth, which is why school children were more prone to becoming infected by polio. The virus would then enter into the intestine and then into the bloodstream. From there it would begin to infect the spinal cord and cause paralysis. In some cases, it would progress to paralyzing the diaphragm, and the patient would no longer be able to breathe on their own. If this did occur, the child would have to be placed in an iron lung, which would aid their lungs in expanding and contracting. About 21,000 out of 100,000 children became infected with this disease, 5% of those children dying.
Yes, Desi. And there are a lot of parents whose children are healthy and happy now, who live in fear. I know I do. The fear, my friends, is polio, infantile paralysis.
Polio is no respecter of people. The rich, the poor, the strong, the weak, no one is immune.
There was no cure, no way of stopping this illness. That is, until a soon-to-be famous doctor came into the world. He would soon be the one to stop the suffering and eradicate this devastating illness. Jonas Salk was born on October 28, 1914. His parents, Daniel and Dora Salk, had 3 children, of which Jonas was the eldest. Salk's parents had been uneducated themselves, so they pushed their own children to succeed in life with an education. Jonas was often motivated to do well in school by his own intense curiosity to learn more. He would tend to observe things and reflect upon them, this being one of the key personality traits that led to his success. As a young boy, Salk got along very well with his classmates, but he was not what you would call a social butterfly. He preferred to be alone rather than in a social setting, but he still interacted with other people. When he was 12 years old, he was asked to attend a very prestigious high school, Townsend Harris High School. He thrived under the strict curriculum and graduated at the near top of his class. He then moved on to college, being the first in his family to do so. Salk attended the College of New York City at the age of 16 to study law, but only for a short period of time. Jonas had signed up for a laboratory chemistry class out of mere curiosity, which later intrigued him to want to learn more about the field of science, making him change his major from law to medical science. It was while Salk was in college that Franklin Roosevelt became president. Salk was inspired by Roosevelt's survival of poliomyelitis, which pushed him to want to learn more about diseases, such as what causes them and how to prevent them. It was because of this curiosity that he decided to attend medical school at New York University School of Medicine. Jonas graduated medical school in 1939. During that same year, Salk married his wife, Donna Lindsay. Donna Lindsay was a psychologist who shared the same goals as Salk by making the world a better place through medicine and science. He and his wife moved in 1940 since he had taken a new job at Mount Sinai Hospital. In 1941, Dr. Francis invited Salk to come to his research lab in Michigan in order to help him develop an influenza vaccine. Their hard work and research finally paid off in 1944 when the flu vaccine became available to the public. This experience gave him the knowledge and skills he would soon need to develop a vaccine against infantile poliomyelitis. In 1947, Salk took up a new position at the University of Pittsburgh, where he would begin his research for the poliomyelitis vaccine. Most people criticized his ideas of using a killed virus vaccine because it did not protect the body's immune system completely, unlike the live virus vaccine. The facilities that the university provided allowed Salk to investigate and explore the polio virus. He still kept in contact with his mentor during his job at the University of Pittsburgh. In 1950, Salk was awarded research money from the National Foundation of Infantile Poliomyelitis, also known as the March of Dimes, to officially start work on the polio vaccine. However, other doctors and researchers had received money for the same cause. It was now a race to be the first to come up with the vaccine. While Salk fought in the lab to stop polio, there were others that were determined to help as well.
With Basil O'Connor, Franklin D. Roosevelt created the March of Dimes, a citizens' army dedicated to winning freedom from polio for America's children. And Americans of all ages helped raise the money required. The Mother's March was actually started by 2 men. Dr. John Enders and Dr. Jonas Salk were among the scientists who led the battle in the research laboratory. America was united in its faith that it could be done, that miracles were possible.
In 1952, Salk had completed his vaccine, but it still needed to be tested. He first tested his vaccine on children who were already infected at the D.T. Watson Home for Crippled Children. The test showed that his vaccine was a success so far, which made him even more confident about it. Now Salk needed to see if his vaccine would work on those who were not affected by polio, as a prevention of polio as well. To test this, Salk used his vaccine on himself and his family. He was successful once again, and it was in 1953 that the mass trials of his vaccine would begin. National testing began in 1954, where he used 500,000 children already infected with polio, and another 500,000 as the control party. It was in 1955 that the results came in.
The number 2 story of the year promised children a new life free of polio. The story began at the University of Michigan.
On this basis, it may be suggested that vaccination was 80 to 90% effective against paralytic poliomyelitis, that it was 60 to 70% effective against disease caused by type 1 virus, and 90% or more effective against that of type 2 and type 3 viruses.
Newspaper headlines and news stories across the globe announced his discovery, and Dr. Jonas Salk became an instant hero throughout the world. In 1963, Dr. Jonas Salk founded the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in San Diego, California. He continued his passion of medical research by concentrating on a killed virus AIDS vaccine. Like during his polio research, many doctors argued whether a killed virus vaccine would work better than a live virus vaccine. Though he never came up with the vaccine, he did create an immunogen that can be given to patients that are HIV positive to suppress the contraction of disease. Jonas Salk passed away on June 23, 1995, at the age of 80 due to congestive heart failure. His death was a great loss for the field of medicine and for the entire world as a whole. However, all of the changes and contributions he made to medical history will always be remembered and will continue to live on as long as there is disease.